So I kind of want to talk about how everyone was freaking out about how, oh my God, they're making the Force is female, all that stuff. So I'm gonna teach you guys a little mythology and religious mythology here. So we're gonna start with this one here. So I covered this earlier in a segment I have a show called Lounge Ronin, All Things Everything, where we literally cover everything. So if you're interested in learning more, check out that series. But what I wanted to essentially address was this whole concept of the force as female. So we're going to start off here first, and we're going to learn a little bit about the Temple of Nimka, the Mesopotamian goddess of humankind. And so here we have um, one of the great temples constructed during the Neo-Babylonian period. The golden age of the city of Babylon was the Temple of Nimka. The temple was built adjacent to the famous processional way in the Ishtar Gate, the main gate that led into the city of Babylon, and stood as a testament to divine reverence and architectural mastery. I don't know why I butchered that word earlier today. But here we go. I want to get to the important part. The cult of Nimka was notable for being a woman-centered cult, while the temple of Nimka reflected the profound veneration of the goddess that created humankind. In modern times, humans have similarly sought to create new forms of intelligence paralleling the divine, act, yada, yada, yada. So I wanted to point out that this idea of um, woman-centered cults is nothing new. It's been around for a very, very long time. Now, I am not saying and implying that Leslie Headland got any inspiration from this cult. That I don't think. I know, what was it, Echo Base, they were talking about the as above, so below in episode 3, the bafflement, which I already told you guys. I already covered it in episode 3. So Echo Base, they're late to the party. All of them are late to the party. If any of them start talking about how, oh, there's bafflement and occult stuff, I already told you guys that live in episode 3. So shout out to anyone who's any of their, on their camp tuning in on Ronin's reviews. But I already told you guys, don't be surprised that there is these types of concepts and ideas in Star Wars. Disney is littered with concepts of occultism. I've covered it on here. All right, if you really want to know more about it, check out Isaac Weishaupt on YouTube. He has great breakdowns. I listened to an interview with a woman who was child trafficked under Disney. But nobody wants to talk about that. They don't want. No one wants to get into that side of Disney. No one wants to talk about how all the land on that Disney is on was provided to them by the CIA. But I digress. I don't want to get too off topic here. But the reason why I wanted to point this out to you guys was that this is not anything new. Okay, so here we go. Within the inner sanctum of the Temple of Nimka was a woman-exclusive zone where devotees would gather to engage in ritual bathing rites and pray for their children and marriages. The cult of Nimka was notable for being a woman-centered cult, while the Temple of Nimka reflected the profound veneration to the goddess that created humankind. Now, why am I pointing this out? Because if they go with this whole concept that the force is female, this is not anything crazy. This is a concept that literally most religions ascribe to. But like I said, you're not going to get this type of education on Nerderotic, none of those channels, Yellow Flash, none of them, Echo, all of those channels. I got no disrespect to them. Grift how you're going to grift. Fine. But don't be surprised when people call you out for your unethical grifting. My whole thing is, if you want to grift, at least have some morals and ethics in your grift. But the moment you start losing those morals and ethics and you're just exploiting just for the sake of exploiting, and I see it, I'm going to call it out. And they're doing a lot of that. And this is my problem. Don't talk about the force as female and talk about all they're trying to turn into feminism and all this nonsense if you don't understand the origins of mythology or even religious mythology or even where any of your belief systems come from. Trust me, could you imagine if Melanie Mack found out that Christianity, who she so wholly, praise and ascribes and profit off of, actually came from Egypt? She would lose her mind. All right, she would lose her mind if she found out that Jesus Christ, engaged in child trafficking. But we're not ready for those type of concepts. So you got to be careful of people out there who be talking this stuff, but they don't know anything. But over here, Ronin our music here, Ronin reviews, Lounge Ronin with your boy Kiyosha Ronin Beatmaker, you're gonna learn about these things. So that way you can understand that these aren't crazy concepts and ideas. They may not be executed great. They might be executed poorly. And so far, I would not be surprised if they execute this poorly. Or who knows, maybe they execute it pretty good. We'll see. But the reason why I'm pointing this out for you guys is that this is not a crazy concept or crazy idea. Okay? Here, we're done with NIMCA. There's not much else here to cover. I'm going to take it a step further for you guys. All right? And here we go. Oh, you didn't think we were going to do this, huh? You didn't think we're going to be covering Martin Luther King Jr. and his research. Because remember, Martin Luther King Jr. was a priest. He was a theologian, and he did a paper. We're about to cover his paper, which I covered earlier. Because I had some critics criticizing me and saying that you don't know what you're talking about. The Bible is the Bible, and it's OG. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll bring the receipts since you guys can't comprehend and accept the fact that Moses was Egyptian and he wasn't a Jew. Nothing wrong there. This is just a truth. But here, I'm going to cover it for you. So here's another aspect. So when everyone out there is saying, oh, the force is female, this is a crazy concept, it's feminism, yada, yada, yada. Here it is, more to counter them. Okay? So go ahead, any of them. Come check out this episode. I'll educate you. Tell them, come over here and we'll learn. We'll learn together. So here we go. The influence of the cult of Cybele and Attis. The first Oriental religion to invade the West was the cult of the Great Mother of the Gods. The divine personage in whom this cult centered was the Magna Mater Deum, who was conceived as the source of all life, as well as a personification of all the powers of nature. Footnote, Willoughby Pagan Regeneration, page 114. She was the great mother, not only of all the gods, but of all men as well. The winds, the sea, the earth, and the snowy seat of Olympus are hers. And when her from mountains she ascends into the great heavens, the son of Cronus himself gives way before her. In like manner do also the other immortal bless honor the dread goddess. Quoted in Willoughby's Pagan Regeneration, page 115. At an earlier date, there was the associated with Cybele, the great mother, a hero divinity called Attic, who personified the life of the vegetable world particularly. Around these two divinities, there grew up a confused tangle of myths, an explanation of their cult rites. Various writers gave different versions of the Cybele Attis myth. However, these specific differences need not concern us, for the most significant aspects are common in all the various versions. We are concerned at this point with showing how this religion influenced the thought of early Christians. I'll repeat that again. We are concerned at this point with showing how this religion influenced the thought of early Christians. Okay? The red woke pop culture commentators, they're not going to teach you this stuff. Attis was the god shepherd, the son of Cybele, the great mother, who gave birth to him without union with mortal man, as the story of the Virgin Mary. I'll repeat that again. Attis was the good shepherd, the son of Cybele, the great mother, who gave birth to him without union with mortal man, as the story of the Virgin Mary. Okay? So shout out to my Christian woke right pop culture commentators. Where do you think the concept of Virgin Mary came from? Oh, she also came from Egypt, with Isis being the other concept of the Virgin Mary. But yeah, Christianity, most of Christianity's concepts, stories, derive from Egypt paganism, the pantheon gods. But they're not going to tell you that. Melanie Mack, she ain't going to teach you that. Okay? Shadiversity, they ain't going to teach you that. None of these cats are going to teach you this stuff. They're going to only point at the negative aspects of these things. But over here, we're going to look at it at its totality. Okay. According to the myth, Attis died either slain by another or by his own hand. At the death of Attis, Cybele mourned vehemently until he arose to life again in the springtime. The central theme of the myth was the triumph of Attis over death, and a participant in the rites of the cult undoubtedly believed that his attachment to the victorious deity would ensure a similar triumph in his life. It is evident that in Rome there was a festival celebrating the death and resurrection of Attis. This celebration was held annually from March 22nd to March 25th. Footnote, Fraser, Adonis Attis, Osiris, page 166. The influence of this religion on Christianity is shown by the fact that Pyceria, Gaul, Italy, and other countries where Attis worshipped was powerful. The Christians adapted the actual date, March 25th, as the anniversary of our Lord's Passion. So just a little light education for everyone. When they're out there bitching and complaining about, oh my God, they're going to make the Force female. Guess what? Where do you think Christianity comes from? So we could keep going. I could keep going on this. All right, you know what? We'll do the influence of Osiris and Isis, since that's the most influential on Christianity. Just so people out there, when they're complaining about the whole idea of the Force is female, all right, they had no problem with the concept of the Father, the Son, and the daughter. But what they don't know about the mother, Obeloff, who was a human. So this is not a crazy concept. And if they went down the path of Obeloff and that she was a mortal woman, that actually fits within the Star Wars within the expanded universe, and within the concept of the Force, and it fits in the concept of Christianity. But hey, guess what? They don't know that. You're not going to get any of this from Star Wars Theory. He's not going to tell you this stuff. He doesn't know this stuff. Urban Acolyte does. Shout out to Urban Acolyte. He's probably the best person to go to when it comes to understanding the Force. He was a theologian himself. So this is the thing. This is the problem that I have. If you don't understand the influences that created the Star Wars universe, don't talk about it as if you know what it is, verbatim or for matter of fact. Like, I'm for real here. Like, this is what and I'm doing this, and I'm not going to cover this again at all. But if I have to, I will. But I'm trying to make this clear to you guys where a lot of these concepts come from. And these people who aspire to be people of religious faith, they don't even know what they're worshiping themselves. Yet they're going to tell you how the concepts in Star Wars work. They don't even know how it works. So if they do go down the route of making the Force a goddess, a female, I would be like, that actually kind of works. When you look at it from a mythology and a religious standpoint, it actually works. Now, I'm not saying or claiming that Leslie Headland and the crew are well versed to know that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. We won't know until and if they even address it in this. But here, I'm going to read this right here. The influence of Osiris and Isis. The Egyptian mysteries of Isis and Osiris exerted a considerable influence upon early Christianity. Considerable influence upon early Christianity. These two great Egyptian deities who worshipped passed into Europe were revered not only in Rome but in many other centers where Christian communities were growing up. Osiris and Iris, so the legend runs, were at one and the same time brother and sister, husband and wife, but Osiris was murdered, his coffined body being thrown into the Nile, and shortly afterwards the widowed and the exiled Isis gave birth to a son, Horus. Meanwhile, the coffin was washed up on the Syrian coast and became miraculously lodged in the trunk of a tree. This tree afterwards chased down to be cut down and made into a pillar in the palace at Byblos, and there Isis at length founded. After recovering Osiris's dismembered body, Isis restored him to life and installed him as king in the nether world. Meanwhile, Horus, having grown to manhood, reigned on earth, later becoming the third person of this great Egyptian trinity. A trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Huh. The Father, the Daughter, the Son. Huh. Whoa. Whoa. It's almost as if George Lucas, when he created the Mortis arc, got inspired by Christianity. Or should I say, Egyptian mythology. But hey, Star Wars Theory isn't going to tell you that. None of the other right pop culture commentators who claim to be experts on Star Wars are going to tell you that. Huh. What do you know? What are the odds of that? Now, I'm not claiming or saying that Leslie Headland and crew are going to be able to pull it off. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that these ideas and concepts aren't new. They've been around, and they are the origins of many other religions around the world. Not only that, if they apply it into Star Wars, it could work. Oh my God, it could actually work. So that's what I'm here to let you guys know. I'm not saying that Disney Star Wars is good. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they're not promoting some cult ideas. Yeah, they are. Sure, there's some Baphomet in there. Yeah. Are we really surprised? I love how these people are just realizing that Disney practices and uses occult ideas in their movies and films. Pinocchio, anybody? I've this is why it's going to be so funny when James O'Keefe drops his stuff and we find out that Disney was engaging in money laundering, child and sex trafficking, all sorts of stuff. Don't be surprised. Ronin told you. I already told you this. I told you this when I did my Disney when I did George Lucas versus Disney. I told you all of this. Don't be surprised. And so what I'm trying to educate you guys here on is that this is nothing new. The issue is, will they be able to actually execute it in a manner that actually is cool and works? That I'm not sure they're going to be able to do. But the point that I'm trying to show you guys here is that they screaming and freaking out, the Force is female. Guess what? Where do you think they got that? Where do you think that concept comes from? Where do you think it all comes from? It's real mythology. It's real religious mythology. And like I said, if you don't know this kind of stuff, don't come out there talking as if you do. There's a reason why these cats be talking out their ass and it be smelling so funky on the live streams. Think about that. So, I just wanted to point that out. I wanted to point that out for you guys, that when they're out there, crying about this stuff, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And they're manipulating you, they're exploiting you, and they're triggering you. Okay? Because I can assure you, if you dropped me on one of their live streams and I just presented all this information to them and I told them, so what's the problem here? Intellectually, they're not going to have a response. because they're not at that level. They're not ready for this kind of talk. Go ahead and go ahead and send this to Star Wars Theory. Let him watch this and see his brain try to wrap around his concepts of this. Like I said, I'm not saying that they're doing a good job at it, but I'm telling you that these concepts are nothing new. The problem is how you execute them. That's the only issue. But like I said here, I just explained the Mortis arc to you. I just told you what the Mortis arc was inspired by. They're not going to tell you that. They're going to keep on championing George Lucas, but they're not going to champion where he got all of his ideas from. They only pick and choose what to champion. So, I just want you guys to be aware of this kind of stuff moving forward. You don't have to like the show. I'm not saying you got to like the show. But when they start talking like this, be just pause for a second. And now that you're well aware of the origins of Christianity, Catholicism, you're now you've been educated on that slightly. I highly recommend you go and read Martin Luther King Jr.'s full essay. I really recommend you read it. Now you understand these concepts. They just might not be executed well in the show. That's the only issue. That's about it. So far, nothing has happened in this show. It's a very boring show, very bland, very tacky. The dialogue is mostly a miss, but here and there, there's a little nugget. This episode had a couple nuggets. I didn't mind some of the nuggets that we got, but this is not a good show. It's not very entertaining. It's very boring. But like I said, when it comes to these concepts of the Force, do not go to those channels for that education. Come here or go to Urban Acolyte. He has an entire catalog. All right. He's an actual theologian. And he studied ninjutsu. So if you want anyone who can really give you concepts of the Christian mythology within Star Wars, he's another example. But as I told you here, as I just educated you guys, this whole idea of the Force is female is nothing new. We just covered Nimka and the cult around the female cult around her, Isis and Osiris in Egyptian paganism that inspired Christianity. For people who just dropped in, I covered that. Go back at least 10-20 minutes and you'll see me covering that. But we slightly covered it right here. We covered how right here it says the Egyptian mysteries of Isis and Osiris exerted considerable influence upon early Christianity. So this is nothing new, guys. These concepts, they inspired Star Wars as well. Now Leslie Headland may have some people around her who got inspired by this stuff. Maybe, I don't know. We don't really know. But I just want you guys to be aware that when it comes to these people telling you, "Oh my God, the Force is female, it's feminism, it's da da this," they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. This is actually Egyptian mythology. It's actually ancient mythology of the world. I already covered it. Different ones. This is the Nimka. This is the Nimka one. So I've already covered it. These ideas are nothing new. Okay, it says it right here. Uh, the cult of Nimka was notable for being a woman-centered cult for fertility. Okay, so if you're gonna have this cult of women who worship a female deity of the Force, all right, for fertility, it's not out of the realm of the idea. It's just how they execute it. So I just want you guys to know, don't be going to those channels out there to educate you on the mythology of Star Wars and where it comes from because they don't know. They don't even know the mythology and the origins of their own religions. I'm just letting you guys know. You go and check out Lounge Ronin, my playlist. You'll be educated on everything. And it's more of a light introduction into many concepts and ideas that allow you to then further your research if any of those concepts and ideas inspire you or scratch that inquisitive itch. You might be surprised what you learn about the world and yourself. But those channels, those woke right pop culture commentators, they're not going to educate you like that. They're not going to look at these concepts from a more well-rounded, balanced approach. They're not going to take the time to do some of that research and provide you this evidence. So the whole concept of the force is female, it's nothing new. This is literally part of the origins of humanity and religion. So anytime they say that stuff, just tell them to come check out